I am the devil. I am the Lord Satan from the netherworld, ruler of the damned and eternal king of hell. Even I, the master of deceit, can only stomach so much bullshit from the mainstream media and indie grifters. That's why I tune in to Morning Extra with Uncle Warren, because he eliminates my competition, and also because I know I'm gonna see that motherfucker soon.
Deo, Deo.
Baby's got a booger and a shooter and that naked all go down. Baby's got a booger and a shooter and that shit all go down. Corrosion to her thighs, erosion of her pride. Corrosion now. Baby's got it.
Greetings and happy hump day to you and Yorn. I always end up slipping down. I'm a OCD about the headroom. You know what I mean? I'm not a fan of being like way down here or then you get chopped off. It's an old TV thing. Sorry. I don't know what's going on these days. Actually, I do know what's going on.
Fuck you, everybody. Good night.
It is Rocktober, or in the porn business, it would be called Cocktober. But we're not in the porn business here, at least not anymore. Not since the incident. Good morning, everybody. It's good to see you. I don't if you're on the YouTubers thingies, Glavin, we got a little poll going on here, and it's more so for me, and I guess more or less for you as well. We're since the show's been doing okay, not bad. We want to accommodate you and hopefully accommodate me as well. So we got, if you come over to the YouTube there, I also have a poll, I think, on the community tab on YouTube as well. They don't give you poll options on Rockfin or Rumble and Facebook. I don't even know how that works, so I'm not even going there. I'm lucky to get the stream up on Facebook, with a convoluted thing that they do. So your choices are Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. Boy, that would be one hell of a show. But if we do a Monday through Friday show, it's only going to be an hour. It's only going to be 1 hour. But there's also Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 11 a.m. to 8 a.m. Pacific for 2 hours. So basically just what we're doing now, but just an hour later. Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 7 a.m. 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. I keep getting these times mixed up. I'm so sorry. Which would be the same time we're on now, but it would be Monday through Friday. And then Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. 2 hours, just basically what we're doing right now. So we'll do that poll throughout the week. And probably keep doing that. Maybe by the weekend we'll have a solid idea of what to do, and then those changes will probably be come the 1st of November. So let's give a shout out to everybody that's here. We got Kate holding it down over on the Rock Fiend. We got our usual lurkers on Rumble, I'm sure. Rick's here. Good to see you on YouTube. Could use a little bit of that hell warmth. It's a chilly one here. It's 30-something degrees here in Chicago. So the Northeast is getting like some sort of little blast out of Canada. So, I know it's fall. It's October, but I don't think it's supposed to be in the 30s by now. So I think this is a little bit unusual. So if you're in that area, stay warm. So Rick's here and Bella's here. Good to see you, Bella. Me and Bella's cutting up in Kevin's chat over there in Black Bear News yesterday. Our buddy Jean, she doesn't believe that we're manipulating the weather in any sort of way. So she said, trust the scientists. I'm like, I don't know if you want to do that. Willie Bragg's here. Good morning, Willie. Willie and Jimmy going to be doing Bragland today at 5 p.m. Eastern. So I'll remind you towards the end of the show when we do our little promos there. Chuck's here too. Chuck is going to be back in business on Friday, I believe, too. And Vera's here. Good to see you, Vera. I hope you're doing well this morning. So, yeah. So, anywho, let me just do this real quick. Yeah, okay. Science is yeah, that's what you put yesterday, Bella, in his chat, and I thought that was funny. Science is the belief in the ignorance of experts. Hey, Mantis, what's up? Good to see you. Where do you place your ballot? Hey, where you place your ballot is your business, pal. You know, I'm definitely not going there. So, all right, we have a huge propaganda watch block coming up later in the show. But first, as always, I believe Chanda is starting her chemotherapy treatments. And of course, those are always not fun. So, if you can help her out with that, her GoFundMe link is in the description below. And if you can't do anything monetarily, if you could share out the link, that would be much appreciated as well. So, Anonymous in the house, you are here all the way from the UK. Good to see you, brother. I hope things are going your way across the pond there. It's nice to have an international audience, it's kind of nice, you kind of feel like, like you want to pull up to somebody in a car and go, pardon me, do you have any Grey Poupon? But of course. And, if you got friends, we're streaming on Facebook too, as another outlet, but also to get, more people that aren't really in this space, informed about what's going on in the world too. So if you got pals on Facebook, even if you don't watch it yourself on Facebook, just tell them about it, and hopefully, we get a little more education going on. We had a person here in the chat on Monday who was not a particular fan of me making fun of the Iron Dome and called me anti-Semitic, and I got a little upset, but at the same time, I think people like that need to be educated on what's going on, and I should probably take a little bit of my own advice. Whereas, don't call people names and stuff like that, but try to educate them. But, when it comes to kids burning alive, man, it's really hard to temper your anger at people like that. So exactly, Rick, you got to get the normies. The normies is where it's at. I'm trying my best, to put that information out there for them, but every little bit helps. So, all right, let me go ahead and blind myself here, because I always do this. See, I get the white eyes. Oh, something like that. Yeah, so Israel killing people. What else is new? Let's see if this will work. All right, let's try that. So, from Press News or Press TV, this is 55 killed in new Israeli attacks on Gaza amid worst restrictions on aid. Israel's incessant bombardment of Gaza, including Jabalia in the north, has killed at least 55 more Palestinians. Gaza's Ministry of Health said yesterday more than 300 had also been injured in the past 24 hours. In one of the regime's most devastating attacks on Gaza, an entire family was killed in the bombing of their home near the southern city of Khan Yunis. Mahmoud Basal, the spokesman for the Palestinian Civil Defense in Gaza, said 7 of those killed belonged to the Syed family. He said their bodies were buried in their family home. About a dozen Palestinians were murdered by the regime's warplanes near the Jabalia refugee camp. Israeli helicopters bombed Palestinian agricultural land south of the Maghazi area in central Gaza. Agricultural land, yes, agricultural land is a terrorist, apparently. Dirt is terrorism. Earlier, the Palestinian news agency Wafa reported that 8 Palestinians were killed and several others injured in an Israeli airstrike targeting a group of civilians in Gaza City and 2 tents for the displaced in Khan Yunis. The Lebanese television network Al Mayadeen reported the Israeli forces launched airstrikes on Nusrat camp in central Gaza. Monday, the Palestinian resistance movement Hamas slammed the latest Israeli military onslaught on the northern Gaza Strip, saying it is meant to ethnically cleanse the Palestinian population in the area. Straight up genocide. The aim of the current Israeli onslaught is to displace the population of northern Gaza towards the south. The Israeli army aims to use maximum firepower in Gaza to paint an image of achievement and success, said Osama Hamdan, the Gaza-based group's senior representative in Lebanon. Hamdan said the so-called general's plan proposed to Netanyahu and the Knesset, their parliament, by a group of retired generals, is only meant to play with the emotions of the settlers in the occupied territories as the regime suffers from its debacle in Gaza. The plan reportedly seeks to give Palestinians a week to leave the northern third of the Gaza Strip, including Gaza City, before declaring it a closed military zone. Those who remain would be considered combatants and denied food, water, medicine, and fuel. There must be efforts to support the steadfastness of the Palestinian people in Gaza. Resistance operations will continue and expand to defend our people despite all circumstances, the senior Hamas official said. So, and then you remember the people burning alive in the tents there. It was people who were bedridden in the hospital. A horrible sight to see for sure. Just all part of the carnage that Israel is doing in Gaza and in Lebanon as well, of course. Israel renews bombardment of Lebanese capital after a 6-day pause. Hey, we got Yona and Prop in the house. What's up, guys? Good to see you. Israel renews bombardment of Lebanese capital after 6-day pause. So Israel renewed its bombardment of Beirut's southern suburb today. It's actually, so they're several hours ahead of us here in Chicago. A day after Lebanon's Prime Minister Najib Mikati claimed Washington gave him assurances that Tel Aviv would reduce its attacks on the capital. Well, that was your first mistake there, Mr. Mikati, believing anything Washington tells you. The attacks marked the first Israeli strikes on the capital since over 100 were killed and injured in brutal raids on central Beirut on October 10th. Israeli warplanes raided the Heret Reik area in Beirut's southern suburb on Wednesday morning, this morning, hitting the neighborhood's Shura area, according to Al Mayadeen's correspondent. 2 other airstrikes hit the suburb, including one which hit a building near a school. Tel Aviv issued a new evacuation orders for Lebanese civilians in Heret Reik. Yes, go over here, please, so we can bomb you there. During our contacts with the American authorities last week, we received a kind of guarantee, and you're not even going to get a kind of guarantee, so you should really learn from this, to reduce the escalation in the southern suburbs in Beirut, Mikati said in a statement yesterday. The Prime Minister did not elaborate further, but added that the U.S. is serious about pressuring Israel to reach a ceasefire. And I think that Prime Minister of Palestine, I believe that's the prime minister they're talking about, is kind of doesn't really know what the hell they're talking about. They're a little too pie in the sky there. I know you want diplomacy, but you're not going to get diplomacy with psychopaths. A State Department spokesman said yesterday that Washington has concerns and is, quote, opposed to the scope and nature of Israel's bombing campaign in Beirut. Israel refrained from attacking Beirut in the days after it killed over 22 and injured more than 100 in Beirut's Ras al-Naba and al-Nawari neighborhoods in an attack that was said to be targeting the head of Hezbollah's liaison and coordination unit, Wafiq Safa. Conflicting reports of Safa's survival and absence from the area have since circulated. Yeah, so more chaos from Israel in Lebanon. And then there's the Israeli airstrike on Nabatea municipality, killing 5, including their mayor. 5 people were killed today following Israeli airstrikes on the Nabatea municipality and the municipality's unions building, Al Mayadeen's correspondent in southern Lebanon reported, as Israel continues to target civilians and civilian infrastructure. The Israeli occupation forces carpet bombed the vicinity of the city of Nabatea, targeting residential buildings to several sites, our correspondent indicated. And once again, folks, I butcher the hell out of these names. It's not out of disrespect. It's because I'm an old country boy, and I can barely remember my own name and pronounce it at times, too. So take that with a grain of salt, please. The Israeli enemy strike on 2 buildings, that of the Nabatea municipality and the municipality's union, killed 5 people, the Lebanese Health Ministry also announced in a statement. It added that the death toll was preliminary and that rescuers were still searching for survivors under the rubble. Their correspondent confirmed the martyrdom of the mayor of Nabatea, Ahmad Kahil, one of the municipality's members, and 3 civilians as a result of the Israeli airstrike. Meanwhile, Hezbollah launches a big rocket salvo at Haifa in defense of Lebanon. As you may know, Haifa port is there, and Israel is really nervous about them bombing that port, because that is the major port where influx of goods and services come in. So so Hezbollah says it's launched a barrage of rockets towards the Israeli-occupied town of Haifa. Lebanese resistance movement said in a statement yesterday its fighters launched a big rocket salvo at Haifa in defense of Lebanon and its people. Hezbollah fighters also targeted 3 bulldozers and a Merkava tank on the outskirts of Ramia with guided missiles near a southern Lebanese border village. The resistance fighters had also launched a rocket barrage at Tel Aviv's suburbs on Monday. Hezbollah warned it will hit targets across the occupied territories if Israel continues its savagery against the people of Lebanon. Israel carried out dozens of airstrikes on southern and eastern Lebanon on Tuesday afternoon, as we just told you. So yes, it's this constant going back and forth between the two. And it's when the other countries start getting involved too, is when it's really going to blow up. The Iraqi resistance is already, they said they're ready to go. And of course the Houthis, they always love a good time too. What's up, Dee? Good to see you. Around the World, Dee and Friends is here. She's got her show tonight as well. We'll remind you at the end of the show when we get there, but we are nowhere near there yet. So hang tight. So we told you about how Israel pretty much busted through an encampment by UNIFIL, the UN peacekeepers there, and we're told to get the fuck out. And the UN said, well, this is our invitation for you to go fuck yourselves. So UN rejects Israeli demands, won't withdraw peacekeepers from southern Lebanon. Despite an incident Sunday, which Israeli tanks forced their way into a UNIFIL peacekeeper base in southern Lebanon and ended up firing near the base, wounding a number of personnel, the UN has rejected Israeli calls to withdraw from the area. I'm Irish, man. There's Irish people up in there, too. I think there's Italians, too. Maybe some French. So they're like, nah, we ain't having that. The UN Security Council issued a statement expressing support for the UNIFIL monitoring mission and affirmed that the troops will remain in the country despite multiple calls from Israel's Netanyahu government to leave. The statement also called on all parties to respect the safety and security of UNIFIL's personnel and premises in Lebanon. They didn't single Israel out in the statement, though all the reported attacks on UNIFIL targets in recent weeks have been from the Israeli side. So they didn't say Israel, but, it's Israel. This has led to high-profile statements from some substantial nations saying Israeli attacks on the UN peacekeepers has to cease at once, despite reports of the incidents leaving little doubt that Israel is not complying with the UN Security Council Resolution 1701. Israeli officials denied that they are deliberately attacking UN troops. Wink, 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 wink. Wait, I got something in my eye. Sorry about that. Fuckface Netanyahu issued instead of commenting on the necessity to commit to not attacking the UNIFIL, issued another statement demanding that get out of harm's way and arguing that the demand proves that they are not at war with UNIFIL. The UNIFIL mission is meant to reduce violence in southern Lebanon and observe tensions on the Israel-Lebanon border. The mission's mandate was substantially enhanced after the 2006 Israeli invasion of Lebanon, but seems to be little in the way of an obstacle to the most recent invasion. Yeah, so, and that's the thing. These peacekeeper troops are from all over the place, too. So, Bibi, he's a fucking psychopath, man. He's like, he doesn't care. He'll start a world war. He don't give a fuck, man. I mean, those people are just fucking crazy. Meanwhile, the UN is saying that Israel's deadly strike in northern Lebanon should be investigated. An Israeli airstrike on an apartment building in northern Lebanon that killed at least 22 people needs to be independently investigated, the UN Human Rights Office said yesterday. We have real concerns with respect to the laws of war, Jeremy Lawrence, a spokesperson for the UN's Human Rights Office, said a day after the strike as rescue workers searching through the rubble found more bodies and remains. Lawrence said the UN had received credible reports that a dozen women and children were among the dead. The Israeli military said it struck a target belonging to the Hezbollah terrorist organization and that it would look into reports of civilian deaths. Yeah, it'll look into it. Israel said they're going to look into it. Yeah, sure. The apartment building hit in the airstrike was in the small village of Aito in the country's Christian heartland and far from Hezbollah's main areas of influence in Lebanon's south and east. The strike was a shock to residents as it exacerbated fears that Israel would expand its offensive deeper into Lebanon. I heard a loud noise like a boom, said Dani Alwan, who lives next door. We ran outside. I saw the dust and the smoke and the rubble. There was a body here, another one there. It was a really ugly and painful scene. The three-story building had been rented out to the Hijazi family, which fled their home in the southern village of Aitarun, according to Eli Alwan, Dani Alwan's brother, and the building's owner. Some 1.2 million people have fled southern and eastern Lebanon, where the fighting between Israel and Hezbollah has been concentrated. At least 10 people killed in Israeli strikes at a Gaza food distribution center. Again, farmland, food, terrorists. At least 10 people were killed and 40 injured in northern Gaza Monday after Israeli tank shells hit people queuing for food. Palestinian medics said as fears mounted in the enclave that Israel plans to displace all residents from the north. Medics said an Israeli drone had also opened fire where dozens of residents had gathered to receive food in Jabalia, one of Gaza's 8 historic refugee camps. Women and children were among the victims, they said. The Israeli military said it was looking into the incident. Again, Jabalia has been the focus of an Israeli offensive for around 10 days, and the military has now encircled the camp and sent tanks into nearby Beit Lahia and Beit Hanun towns with the declared aim of stamping out Hamas fighters who are trying to regroup there. And of course, that includes food and farms, with the Israeli military calling on Palestinians to evacuate south as they step up pressure on Hamas, and Hamas telling them not to leave because it was too risky. The past few days resemble earlier phases of the war. The northern part of Gaza, home to well over half the territory's 2.3 million people, was heavily bombed in the first phase of Israel's assault on the territory, which began a year ago. And they're using booby-trap robots. That, because reasons. Israel using booby-trapped robots in northern Gaza, says rights group. Israel's using booby-trapped robots to inflict damage on Palestinians in Gaza, a rights group has said. Citing testimony from eyewitnesses in the enclave, Euromed Monitor said Israel used the remotely detonated devices in a manner that caused extensive damage to homes and buildings and significant civilian casualties. One Gaza resident recalled hearing an enormous explosion in the Al-Kasabi neighborhood on October 9th. In fact, the sound of the explosion was actually louder than the sound of airstrikes, to the point that white dust covered the entire area, they said. It was subsequently discovered that this explosion was caused by a robot equipped with tons of explosives, destroying roughly 6 or 7 houses at once. Euromed Monitor's field team said 2 additional robots were detonated by the Israeli army in the Tawam and Zara neighborhoods west of Jabalia refugee camp. They said another was detonated at the Abu Ali Mustafa intersection in Bir al-Najah, also west of Jabalia camp. There have been numerous reports of Israel using robots and AI-assisted technology in Gaza since the war began last year. Reports in Israeli media have described them as mainly used for surveillance. However, this could have went into the propaganda watch thing, I think. Surveillance. We're gonna keep an eye on you with bombs. Israeli forces have killed at least 55 Palestinians and wounded 329 in the past 24 hours, as we told you earlier. So, yeah, and I've seen these robot dogs before in New York, right? And they look kind of weird and kind of sketchy looking. Like you could just probably take a magnet or something or like a broomstick and just trip them up. But, you know, this is where we're getting to. We're getting to, you know, Terminator type shit where they're starting to use robots to kill people. So say what you will about Emmanuel Macron. He loves picking a fight with people apparently, and he's kind of putting Bibi in his place here a little bit. So Netanyahu rows with Macron over creation of Israel, and as our buddy Anonymous across the pond would say, a row is a fight, is a skirmish, is like or an argument kind of thing. It depends on the level of animosity. So Israeli Prime Minister and shitty human Benjamin Netanyahu has hit back at French President Emmanuel Macron after being angered by his remarks about the founding of the Jewish state. Macron reportedly told French cabinet ministers at a meeting yesterday that Netanyahu must not forget that his country was created by a UN decision, referring to the resolution adopted by the UN General Assembly in 1947 on the plan to partition Palestine into Jewish and Arab states. Macron, whose comments were quoted by a meeting attendee who spoke to AFP, reportedly added that this is not the time to break away from UN decisions. He was apparently referring to the Israeli incursion against Hezbollah militants in Lebanon, despite repeated calls from the UN to cease the hostilities, in particular after UN peacekeepers were wounded in the area. Fuckface hit back at Macron's remarks, insisting that his country was created with the blood of Israel's troops in the Arab-Israeli War of 1948. Pretty sure it was Palestinian blood. The conflict broke out after the Palestinians rejected the UN resolution and attacked a Jewish state, which secured victory after a year of fighting. A reminder to the President of France, it was not the UN resolution that established the State of Israel, but rather the victory achieved in the War of Independence with the blood of heroic fighters, many of whom were Holocaust survivors, including from the Vichy regime in France. Netanyahu garbled in a statement as cited by the Times of Israel. Shithead and Macron later spoke by phone with the Israeli Prime Minister, telling French President he would not agree to a unilateral ceasefire in Lebanon, according to a statement released by his office. Macron and Cocksucker have been trading barbs since last week when the French leader called for a halt to Western weapons exports to Israel, pitching it as the only way to force Western Jerusalem to stop the conflicts in Gaza and Lebanon. He has also accused Israel of deliberately putting the 10,000-strong UN peacekeeper forces in southern Lebanon in the line of fire. The contingent includes some 700 French troops. Asshole slammed Macron's suggestion of an arms embargo as shameful, vowing that Israel would win with or without Western support. I don't know about that. You kind of need that cash there, motherfucker. On Sunday, the Israeli leader called on the UN to evacuate its peacekeepers out of Lebanon, claiming that Hezbollah was using them as human shields. However, UN peacekeeping chief Jean-Pierre Lacroix told reporters on Monday that peacekeepers will remain in their positions. So if you have pals that are just not really up on the history of Israel, oh, hey, CJ, what's going on? Good to see you, bud. You know your shit when even Macron when Macaroni is calling you out. I know, right? Everybody hates Macron, and when he's calling you out, you know you're fucked. So like I said, if you're looking for some pretty decent, extensive documentaries and information videos on the history of Israel and their partners and how it was formed, and how the United States are pretty much their bitch. There's a site that I frequently watch videos from. It's called GDF Official. And it's on the YouTubers there. Just look for GDF. If you're a potty mouth, you could remember it as goddamn fuck. Or if you're not a potty mouth, you can remember it as good day, friend. And they have several videos here, like why America really supports Israel, how Israel spies on America, when American soldiers smoked American soldiers in Vietnam because they were too incompetent and too high on the reefers. How ethnic cleansing created Israel, and so on. These are the one about why America really supports Israel is a long form one. It's about 90 minutes, but it's well worth the time to watch and check them out. It's a good channel. They don't put out videos very often, but when they do, they're usually pretty hard hitting and on point. Germany. What can you say about Germany? Germany is just the land of chocolate, beer, Hogan's Heroes, and of course genocide of the Jewish people back in World War II. So if anybody knows about genocide, it's Germany, right? So this guy, Germany sees no signs of genocide in Gaza. Foreign Ministry reiterates support to Israel. I see nothing. That's German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, not to be confused with Sergeant Schultz from the TV show. Germany said on Monday that it does not see any signs that Israel is committing a genocide in the besieged Gaza Strip for the last year. In a related story, optometrists have folded up shop in Germany and left because they don't want to be associated with Nazis. The statement made by German Foreign Ministry spokesperson Sebastian Fischer came on the same day the Israeli occupation forces burnt displaced Palestinians in their tents by Al-Aqsa Hospital in the Deir al-Balah in the Strip, with footage widely being circulated on social media of the harrowing scenes in the intermediate aftermath of the bombing of the tents. The horrifying inferno followed the killing of 22 Palestinians, including 15 children, in a separate airstrike on a UN Relief and Works Agency, UNRWA, school housing displaced Palestinians in the Nusret refugee camp in central Gaza. This are no signs that Israel is committing the genocide in Gaza, Fisher stressed to reporters at the press briefing as he was quoted by Anadolu News Agency. He went on to say in reference to a report published by the German Bild newspaper on the topic, in this light you may also be able to assess the reporting and the accuracy of this reporting. Genocide 9! Additionally, the German official reiterated his country's staunch support of the Jewish state, refuting media reports that spoke of banning arms export by the foreign minister Annalena Baerbock to Israel. He stressed nonetheless that Berlin has requested from Tel Aviv assurances that the German weapons will not be used in its war. We will give you the weapons, but make sure you don't do the genocide. What am I saying? You're not doing the genocide. You have a stein of beer. We have often spoken here. We have presented this before the International Court of Justice. The minister has spoken out and our position has not changed. So, Germany, you pieces of shit, get your shit together. You're probably going to freeze this winter anyway because, you probably helped blow up the Nord Stream pipeline too. I'm just throwing out shit because I'm silly. But of course, Germany getting their ass handed to them by the PIJ, That's the Palestinian Islamic Jihad. They condemned German foreign minister's justification for civilian targeting in Gaza. 9! That's Baerbock right there. I wonder if she rides a horse bareback. See, the word play. The Palestinian Islamic Jihad, PIJ, has issued a strong condemnation of German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock's remarks, suggesting that Israel can target civilians in Gaza for self-defense, and farms and food lines, too. The group argued that Baerbock should have denounced the occupation's violations of international law, particularly concerning attacks on UNIFIL in Lebanon. The PIJ further asserted that the German government ought to follow the lead of other European nations by halting arms shipments to Israel. They stated that providing military support amid reported crimes against civilians makes Germany complicit in human rights violations. Military support for occupation in light of crimes against civilians makes Germany complicit in human rights violations. Well, they just said that. Additionally, the group rejected the notion that civilian locations lose their protective status simply because the military claims armed individuals are present. We refuse claims of civilian locations losing protective status simply because the enemy alleges armed individuals present in them, it stressed. And this was when Israel was also bitching about Iran's missiles hitting Tel Aviv, and like, you're going after civilians, and when they have Mossad headquarters smack dab in the middle of residential areas because they're a bunch of fucking coward ass pieces of shit. A tribunal in the UK, Anonymous, this is your neck of the woods there, as anti-Zionist beliefs deemed worthy of respect. So, in the UK and other European countries, people have been getting arrested for anti-Semitism when they're really just being anti-Zionist. And as I call them, my regular ass Jews out there have nothing to do with this. Even though Zionists may be mostly Jewish, they're not all Jewish. And not all Jews are Zionists. So please reiterate that to anybody who's ignorant in your life. So a British employment tribunal has ruled that anti-Zionist beliefs are protected under equality law. This was on Monday. Employment Judge Rohan Pirani stated the view that Israel's actions constitute apartheid, ethnic cleansing, and genocide were worthy of respect in a democratic society. It's called free speech. This significant ruling was published in a 120-page judgment which explained why anti-Zionist comments should be protected by anti-discrimination laws. The case centered on academic David Miller, who had been dismissed by the University of Bristol in 2021 over allegations of making, quote, anti-Semitic, unquote, remarks when he criticized Zionism. We find that he has established that the criteria have been met and that his belief amounted to a philosophical belief, Pirani said in his ruling. Miller told the panel that he had regarded Zionism as inherently racist, imperialist, and colonial. That sounds about right. While clarifying that his anti-Zionism was not opposition to Jews. And that's what they try to do. They try to make it sound like every Jew on the planet is a Zionist, and that is definitely not true. The panel acknowledged Miller's expertise, concluding his beliefs were significant and genuinely held. Pirani noted that they were worthy of respect in a democratic society, did not conflict with human dignity, and did not infringe on others' rights. He emphasized that Miller opposed the exclusive realization of Jewish rights in a land also home to non-Jews, non-Jewish self-determination. While the judge deemed Miller's public expression of his views extraordinary and ill-judged, he confirmed the dismissal stemmed from these beliefs. The tribunal found his views were lawful, not inciting violence or posing threats. What Miller said was accepted as lawful, was not anti-Semitic, and did not incite violence, and did not pose any threat to any person's health or safety, the judge said. Following the ruling, Zilla Rahman, Miller's lawyer, released a statement calling it a landmark case that marks a pivotal moment in our country's history for those who advocate for Palestinian rights. Miller served as a professor of political sociology at Bristol from September 2018 until October 2021. The lengthy case originated from complaints made by two pro-Israel students about a 2019 lecture where Miller identified Zionism as one of the 5 pillars of Islamophobia. Later that year, Labor MP John Mann, then chairman of the Parliamentary Committee Against Anti-Semitism, or PCAS, wrote to the university's chancellor. In response, Bristol officials appointed Eileen McColgan, KC, to the I don't know what the KC is, to investigate the students' complaints. The review concluded that Miller did not express hatred towards Jews, thus finding no case against him. So, yeah, and that's what they want to do. They're trying to scare people into shutting the fuck up. They don't want you to shut the fuck up. They want you to shut the fuck up because they want to, continue supporting the Zionist buddies. Global solidarity. Good to see you, my friends. Good to see you. Germany has different laws post-World War II U.S. treaty. That's right. Willie says, George Galloway articulates his anti-Zionism very well to the point that he is not referring to Jewish people. I mean, we should know that by now, that when we talk about the heinous crimes of Israel and Netanyahu and Zionists, we're not talking about your Jewish pal that lives down the street or one of your Jewish friends on social media that you pal around with. You're not talking about those people. But common sense in this world has seemed to become at a premium, and so you have to reiterate that on the regular. Because otherwise you'll be called anti-Semitic, just like me, like I was. So the U.S. apparently is putting on his big boy pants and growing a pair of balls when it comes to their enabler, Israel. So U.S. warns Israel that aid could be withheld. It's the first time they've said this out loud. The U.S. warned Israel on the possibility of withholding some assistance, barring improvements in aid delivery to Palestinians in Gaza, the State Department said yesterday. In a letter sent Sunday, Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin made clear to the government of Israel that there are changes that they need to make again to see that the level of assistance making it into Gaza comes back up from the very, very low levels that it is at today. State Department spokesman and lizard person from that miniseries V, Matthew Miller, told reporters. The letter pointed to U.S. law that requires that, quote, recipients of U.S. military assistance do not arbitrarily deny or impede the provisioning of U.S. humanitarian assistance, unquote. Our hope is that Israel will make changes. Our hope is that Israel will make changes that we have outlined and that we have recommended. And as a result of those changes, will be a dramatic increase in humanitarian assistance. This is me not holding my breath. The letter, weeks before a U.S. election, comes a year into the Israel-Hamas war in which President Joe Biden has repeatedly voiced concern about the lack of assistance and high civilian casualties, but only once is known to have blocked a shipment in the billions of dollars of U.S. aid to Israel. Good morning, Teresa. It's good to see you, my dear. Miller denied any link to the U.S. election, of course. The letter called for action within 30 days, which would fall after voting ends. We didn't think it was appropriate to send a letter and just say this has to happen overnight, Miller said. No shoulder having motherfucker. He pointed to Israel sending assistance through the Erez crossing into Gaza on Monday, a day after Blinken sent the letter. We very much want to see changes, not wait for 30 days, but happen immediately. So, talky. What do they say? Money talks and bullshit walks. Pretty much, yeah. And it sounds like the bullshit's walking up and down. So if good news, if you're a driver of vehicles that still use gas, oil prices plunge as Israel backs off from a threat to bomb Iranian facilities. Everything has consequences. So you threaten to bomb somebody's oil, and that oil happens to go out to a majority of the world, it's going to have consequences. So oil prices plummeted yesterday amid receding fears that Israel would bomb Iran's oil infrastructure and reports that Saudi Arabia may be poised to increase production. I'm about to increase this liquor going down my throat. You say, how can you be drinking so early in the morning? I was like, you read these stories, man. You're lucky you're not doing crack. Brent crude, the global benchmark, dropped 4.6% yesterday to $73.91 per barrel. This steep decline means oil prices have given up nearly all the gains made after Iran's ballistic missile attack on Israel earlier this month. Following the strike, President Joe Biden said the U.S. and Israel were discussing bombing Iran's oil facilities. Good job there, Captain Obvious. Biden later walked back the comment saying, if I was in their shoes, I'd be thinking about other alternatives to striking Iranian oil fields. Iran signaled to Gulf states that it would likely retaliate for the strikes by targeting their oil facilities. It also reiterated previous warnings that it could close the Strait of Hormuz, the key Persian Gulf sea lane through which 1 in 5 barrels of global crude consumption passes each day. The escalating threats sent the price of Brent above $80 per barrel. The Biden administration and Gulf states worked behind the scenes to prevent an Israeli attack. Analysts say last week, Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman hosted Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi. Chachi? I'm not saying that name again. On Monday, the Washington Post reported that Israeli Prime Minister and human marshmallow Benjamin Netanyahu informed the Biden administration he would refrain from striking Iranian energy and nuclear facilities. But he also said, I can't make any promises, because I'm evil and shit. But, they are still going to strike Iran. They may not hit the oil fields, but they're going to do it, they said. So, according to a report, Israel plans to strike Iran before the U.S. presidential election. Interesting. This is by Dave DeCamp over there at antiwar.com. Be sure to check them out, antiwar.com. A lot of great independent news there. Plenty of news sources that more often than not do not involve mainstream media, which is great. Israel is planning to launch its expected attack on Iran before the U.S. presidential elections are held November 5th, according to the Washington Post. On Monday, an unnamed official told the Post that waiting any longer could be perceived as weakness and that the planned strike will be one in a series of responses to the Iranian ballistic missile barrage that was fired at Israel on October 1st, which came in a response to a series of Israeli escalations. A source close to Israel Prime Minister and thumbtack Benjamin Netanyahu told the Post that while Israel was coordinating with the U.S. to some extent on its plans to attack Iran, it wouldn't wait for a green light from the U.S. The person who will decide on the Israeli response to Iran will be Netanyahu, the official said, who was apparently using Netanyahu's voice. The report said that when Netanyahu spoke with Biden last week, he said that Israel planned to hit military infrastructure inside Iran, not oil or nuclear facilities. The conversation was a factor in Biden's decision to deploy those THAAD missile batteries to Israel, which is the Terminal High Altitude Area Defense. And it also has, I think one of those things they said takes about 90 people to run. And that would be U.S. troops. And of course, they announced Sunday they were deploying those troops. And I think they're already there by now. So, yeah. I mean, if you're believing any kind of promises that Israel and that shithead Netanyahu are saying, please. I did have a bridge in Brooklyn that I was going to sell you, but I don't live there anymore. So I think I sold it to somebody else. Rumors and whispers about leaders, Iranian military leaders, are always circulating, and one was about Iranian commander Khani, who was said to be dead, but apparently he's not. He was in Tehran, dismissing arrest and being iced. So Iranian state television broadcast live footage yesterday morning showing Brigadier General Esmail Khani, the commander of the Quds Force of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, at Mehrabad Airport in Tehran. Khani appeared alongside senior Iranian leaders and officials awaiting the arrival of the body of IRGC General Abbas Nilfarushan, who was killed during heavy Israeli airstrikes on Beirut's southern suburb on September 20th. The attack also resulted in the killing of Hezbollah Secretary General Saeed Hassan Nasrallah. Khani's appearance follows rumors in Western Arab and Israeli media suggesting he had been killed or was under investigation by Iranian authorities. Tehran consistently denied these reports, maintaining that Khani was fulfilling his duties and would soon be awarded one of Iran's highest honors by the supreme leader, Saeed al-Khamenei. The conflicting reports regarding Khani's fate come amid a series of Israeli assassinations targeting Hezbollah and Hamas leaders in Lebanon, including the killing of Nasrallah and Nilfaroshan. The Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs announced it would use all capacities to hold Israel accountable for the assassination of General Nilfaroshan. The military condemned the assassination as an illegal act and unforgivable crime, vowing that Iran would work to hold Israel accountable for its actions. By that they mean and other things too, you know. It's going to be a technological war too that's going to happen with those folks. And of course, you know, Iran's just trying to help their people in the region, and what happens? They get new sanctions. You get a sanction. You get a sanction. You get a sanction. Iran condemns new sanctions by the European Union and the UK as illegal amid accusations of missile sales to Russia. So Iran condemned fresh set of sanctions imposed by those folks as illegal on Monday following Western accusations of ballistic missile transfers to Russia. Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesman Ismail Bagay refuted claims of missile sales, reiterating Iran's opposition to the Russia-Ukraine war and emphasizing the need for a diplomatic resolution. Bagay defended Iran's defense cooperation with other nations, including Russia, and stressed that these partnerships are not aimed at third parties. He criticized the sanctions as unjust and unlawful, accusing the EU and UK of hypocrisy for supplying arms to Israel, which he said has committed genocide and war crimes in Gaza and Lebanon. It's like, you can't give those people weapons. Well, what about you guys? Oh, self-defense. The Iranian spokesman also condemned EU sanctions targeting Iran's civil aviation sector, calling them a clear violation of international law. The EU and UK recently imposed additional sanctions on Iran, citing alleged transfers of ballistic missiles to Russia and Iranian involvement in missile attacks on Israel. The sanctions impact a range of Iranian individuals, companies, and airlines, while Iran criticized the absence of similar measures against Israel for its military actions in Gaza and Lebanon. And Australia joins those sanctions too, targeting Iran's missile program. Australia, what the fuck happened to you? Separately, Australia announced new sanctions on 5 Iranian individuals linked to Iran's missile program. According to Foreign Minister Penny Wong, the sanctions include financial restrictions and travel bans on members of Iran's aerospace industries organization, the Shahid Bagheri Industrial Group, and the Shahid Hamad Industrial Group. Israel's missile program poses a material threat to regional and international security, Wong said, but no one could understand because they had America's dick in their mouth. Australia has now sanctioned 200 Iran-linked individuals and entities, including nearly 100 connected to the IRGC. So yeah, sanctions for thee, but not for me. I know that's not the phrase, but you know the thing. Yemen involved in the war, of course, and they're taking hits from the U.S. and the U.K. as they strike Houthi-held Hodeidah for a second day. U.S. and U.K. jets launched airstrikes on Houthi targets in Yemen's western Hodeidah yesterday, the second wave of strikes against the Yemeni militia in the same city within 24 hours. The Houthi-run Al Masirah channel reported that U.S. and U.K. aircraft conducted 4 strikes against targets in Hodeidah's Al Luhaya area. No, I can't even say area, but did not provide any additional information about the targeted locations, casualties, or property damage. On Monday, Houthi media reported that U.S. and U.K. jets had struck the Al Salif district in Hodeidah, but provided little information about the targets. U.S. Central Command in the campaign against the Houthis usually reports that its forces target drone and missile launchers, storage facilities, as well as explosive-laden drone boats, missiles, or drones prepared by the Houthis to attack international shipping lanes. The U.S. military's largest and most recent wave of airstrikes occurred back on the 4th, when U.S. Central Command said that its forces had carried out 15 strikes against Houthi targets in various Yemeni locations controlled by the militia. The Houthis said that the strikes targeted Sana'a, Damar, Hodeidah, and Al-Baida, with residents reporting thick smoke and explosions rocking military bases in targeted areas. In a campaign that began last November, the Houthis have launched hundreds of ballistic missiles, drones, and drone boats at international commercial and naval ships in the Red Sea and other international shipping lanes off Yemen, as well as seized a commercial ship with its crew and sunk 2 more. The Houthis claim that the campaign is intended to put pressure on Israel to stop its military operations in the Gaza Strip. Over in China, this World War III is shaping up to be a real thing, folks. We need to pay attention to everything that's going on around the world. So China is deploying a record 125 warplanes in a large-scale military drill in a warning to Taiwan. So China employed a record 125 aircraft, as well as its Liaoning aircraft carrying ships and large-scale military exercises surrounding Taiwan and its outlying islands on Monday, simulating the sealing off of key ports in a move that underscores the tense situation in the Taiwan Strait, officials said. China made clear it was to punish Taiwan's president for rejecting Beijing's claim of sovereignty over the self-governed island. The drills came 4 days after Taiwan celebrated the founding of its government on National Day, when Taiwanese President Lai Ching-te said in a speech that China has no right to represent Taiwan and declared his commitment to resist annexation or encroachment. And we told you a little bit about that on Monday, I believe. So you have the Middle East, right? So you have the Middle East, you have Ukraine, Russia, you have China, Taiwan, you also have North and South Korea. I didn't include this story, but they had already sealed off roads between North and South Korea, and apparently North Korea is like blowing up those roads, basically saying, we mean business. But China seems to be the one with like the coolest head so far, as they're still trying for diplomacy. China willing to be friend and partner with the U.S., says President Xi. Or Z? Is it Z? Xi? I think it's Xi. Chinese President Xi Jinping on Wednesday, that's today, said Beijing was willing to be a friend and partner to the U.S. for the development of both countries. And just a reminder that when China goes into these countries, they're not bringing democracy. They're bringing like bridges and building infrastructure and stuff for these poor countries like that. And it's your actions that really make a difference. So it's not what you say; it's what you do. According to state media, the Chinese president extended an olive branch to the U.S., saying a successful partnership is an opportunity for both countries to be enablers for each other's development rather than an obstacle. China is willing to be a partner and friend with the U.S. This will benefit not only the two countries, but the world, Xi said in remarks from a letter to the 2024 annual awards dinner of the National Committee on U.S.-China Relations. They have an awards dinner? Really? According to a CCTV news report. believe that's Chinese media. She pointed out that China-U.S. relations are among the most important bilateral relations in the world, which have a bearing on the future and destiny of mankind, according to the letter. The two countries have been at odds over national security concerns, ongoing trade spats, as well as China's actions in the South China Sea and intensified military drills around Taiwan. Trade relations soured over the past year and have centered around issues including restrictions on electric vehicles and advanced semiconductors. China has always handled China-U.S. relations in accordance with the principles of mutual respect, peaceful coexistence, and win-win cooperation, and has always believed that the success of China and the United States is an opportunity for each other, she said. Well, that just sounds like he wants a fucking war, doesn't it? You know, dude, that's what you think, you know, like some of these, the Republicans in general, they're like, you know, this Ukraine war, nah, but China, me want some of that. Because the Republicans won't back a loser. That's the thing. And they know that Ukraine is a lost cause. But China, for some reason, they think, we could take them. So, yeah. But, you know, then you have people in China who's like, maybe you should cool your jets a little bit. Speaking of Russia and Ukraine, so Zelensky is a comedian and has jokes. The Kremlin, commenting on Zelensky's victory plan, says Ukraine needs to, quote, sober up. I like to drink in the morning. Ah! That hurts, doing a Zelensky impression. But it's worth it. It's for the comedy. The Kremlin said today it was too early to comment in detail on Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's victory plan, but that Kiev needed to sober up and realize the futility of the policies it was pursuing. Basically saying, we don't know what you said, but we know it's bullshit, and you should probably stop drinking. Zelensky presented his 5-point victory plan, which he said called for an unconditional invitation for Kiev to join NATO and a strategic non-nuclear deterrent package for Ukraine, among other things. Yes, give those Nazis more weapons, right? Addressing Parliament, the Ukrainian leader said that it could be possible to end the conflict with Russia no later than this year if his plan was implemented now. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said the Ukrainian plan was probably a camouflage U.S. plan, yeah, probably, which he said was about using Kiev to fight against Russia until the last Ukrainian. Remember that? Was that South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham? Till the last Ukrainian, y'all, we ain't gonna use none of our boys. We gonna use all them all them hunky Nazis. Ooh-hoo! But there could be a different plan there, which could be really peaceful, which is for the Kiev regime to realize the futility of the policies they're pursuing and to realize the need to sober up and realize the causes that led to this conflict, Peskov said. Russia remains staunchly opposed to Ukraine joining NATO. Washington, which has provided billions of dollars of arms and aid to Ukraine, has said it's up to Kiev how it deals with Russia. Pretty much they're starting to wash their hands of Ukraine. You know what I mean? It's like that, you know, you have this big fight with the girlfriend and you know the girlfriend's wrong, or the boyfriend, you know, whatever it is, and you find somebody new and exciting and they're like, but we can still be friends, right? We can still call each other when it rains, and you're like, yeah, well, I think we're getting a bad connection. I told you about North and South Korea. All testy. The North Koreans, they send over balloons full of garbage, and South Korea sends over reconnaissance drones. So things are heating up over there quite nicely. One U.S. official warns of growing North Korean military support for Russia's war. So, they were dinging on Iran, and now they're worried about North Korea getting into the mix. Hello, Mr. Glasses. U.S. Deputy Secretary of State Kurt Campbell, I think that's this asshole right here. There he is. said Wednesday that Washington and its allies are alarmed by North Korea's nuclear and missile threats, as well as its increasing military support for Russia's war in Ukraine, but said he couldn't confirm Ukrainian claims that Pyongyang was also sending soldiers to fight for Moscow. Campbell spoke with reporters following discussions with South Korean and Japanese counterparts on reinvigorating an international pressure campaign against North Korea, which faltered in recent years amid a deepening divide at the UN Security Council. Earlier today, Washington, Seoul, and Tokyo announced plans with 8 Western governments to launch a new multinational team to monitor the enforcement of sanctions against North Korea. Russia in March vetoed a UN resolution in a move that effectively abolished monitoring by UN experts of Security Council sanctions against North Korea, which prompted Western accusations that Moscow was acting to shield its arms purchases from Pyongyang to fuel its war in Ukraine. Campbell said there are signs that North Korea was increasing its support of materials, including artillery and missiles, to support Russia's war on Ukraine, which he said was creating further instability in Europe. Yeah, like the weapons you gave to Ukraine weren't doing that, dumbass. He said the U.S. was still evaluating reports that North Korea was also sending personnel. We are concerned by them, and we agreed that we will continue to monitor the situation closely, Campbell said about the claims. Zelensky has claimed that North Korea is sending military personnel to help Russia's war effort without providing details, which is par for the course with Ukraine. Ukrainian media reported earlier this month that 6 North Koreans were among those killed after a Ukrainian missile strike on October 3rd, which could also be their mercenaries, too. It doesn't necessarily mean they're representing the North Koreans. I'm just saying, I'm just putting that out there. North Korea has also been making increasingly provocative threats against rival South Korea, including accusing the South of infiltrating drones, as we told you, to drop anti-North Korean propaganda leaflets over Pyongyang and threaten to attack the South if it happens again. Yeah, so not just surveilling, but throwing that propaganda over there. They're delivering their own trash. North Korea also said on Tuesday blew up the northern sections of unused roads and rail routes that once linked it with South Korea in a choreographed demolition aimed at demonstrating its growing anger with South Korea's conservative government. Like we said, those roads have already been closed off. This is more ceremonial, that they actually blew up the roads. It's kind of like those people who were, complaining that I saw one video, I think Willie had it on his show, they had of Harley Davidson going woke, and so this idiot decided to take like this automatic weapon and blow up his own Harley Davidson that he already bought. I'm like, if you're going to boycott something, just don't buy it. If you already own it, don't destroy it, because then you just wasted money, stupid. Tensions on the Korean Peninsula have spiked since 2022 as North Korean leader Kim Jong-un used Russia's war on Ukraine as a window to dial up his weapons testing activities and threats. Washington, Seoul, and Tokyo have strengthened their combined military exercises in response and took steps to sharpen their nuclear deterrence strategies built around strategic U.S. assets. Following his talks with Campbell and Japanese Vice Foreign Minister Masataka Okano, South Korean Vice Foreign Minister Kim Hong-kyun said that the countries condemned the North's intentional moves to create tensions. Because you're not creating tensions yourselves. It's I think that's what the kids call deflection. Is that what it is? Now, this is a disturbing story. I did not know this was going on in Turkey. So the body of missing student found as Turkey grapples with femicides. And it's just the killing of women, boils down to it. The body of a 21-year-old woman student who went missing nearly 3 weeks ago has been found in eastern Turkey, the government said yesterday, as the country grapples with a wave of femicides. Hundreds of women have taken to the streets in major cities across Turkey over the past 10 days to denounce the string of murders. The protests began following a grisly October 4th attack in Istanbul in which 2 19-year-olds were killed within half an hour of each other by a young man of the same age who then killed himself. One of the women was decapitated. The body of Rojan K. I guess they're hiding the last name, was found on the banks of Lake Van near Mola Qasim village, some 80 kilometers or 50 miles from Turkey's eastern border with Iran. Interior Minister Ali Yerlikaya wrote on the tweeters, although Yerlinkaya did not give the cause of death nor confirm whether she had been murdered. It is rare for such a high-ranking official to comment publicly on a missing persons case. The young woman was studying at university in the nearby city of Van, where she was last seen leaving her student digs on September 27th. Turkey has struggled to contain a wave of femicides, with the country shocked by the murder of an 8-year-old girl in August and a 26-year-old policewoman last month. And one thing I should let you know about this show is I'm a big supporter of women. I had 2 older sisters, and they have been through some struggles themselves. I see stories like this and about like these rape cases in India, and it's just it's just another part of the evil, sickening atmosphere that has surrounded this planet in recent years. Most of it is starting to come to light, thanks goodness, so maybe we can, prevent these things. But it's just really heartbreaking to see stuff like that, and where nothing is being done about it. So, meanwhile, some people were killed in Nigeria too. A fuel tanker there exploded, killed at least 94, dozens injured. At least 94 people have been killed and about 50 others wounded after an overturned fuel tanker exploded in northwestern Nigeria, according to police. The overnight explosion took place on an expressway in Jigawa State as people rushed to the vehicle to collect the fuel. A police spokesperson said on Wednesday, "We have so far confirmed 94 people dead." Lawan Shisu Adam said, warning the death toll could rise. The tanker, which had traveled about 110 kilometers or 68 miles from neighboring Kano State, veered to avoid colliding with a truck in the town of Majia, according to police. Following the crash, residents crowded around the vehicle, which likely increased the number of casualties, Adams said. The residents were scooping up fuel from the overturned tanker when the explosion occurred, sparking a massive inferno that killed 94 people on the spot, he told the AP news agency. Just insane. I mean, people desperate for fuel, so desperate that they're willing to risk their lives to scoop up just a meager amount, and then they end up getting exploded. This is a mad world, but it ain't a funny movie, that's for damn sure. Meanwhile, the worst drought in a century devastates southern Africa, and millions are at risk. Millions of people across southern Africa are going hungry due to a historic drought, risking a full-scale humanitarian catastrophe, the UN has warned. Lesotho, Malawi, Namibia, Zambia, and Zimbabwe have all declared a state of national disaster in the past months as the drought has destroyed crops and livestock. Angola and Mozambique are also severely affected. The UN's World Food Program said in a briefing yesterday, warning that the crisis is expected to deepen until the next harvest in March or April of next year. A historic drought, the worst food crisis yet, has devastated more than 27 million lives across the region. WFP spokesperson Thomson Fury said some 21 million children are malnourished. October in southern Africa marks the start of the lean season, and each month is expected to be worse than the previous one until harvest next year in March and April. Crops have failed, livestock have perished, and children are lucky to receive one meal per day. Tens of millions of people in the region rely on small-scale agriculture, irrigated by rain for their food and to make money to buy provisions. And, Africa is a huge continent, right? So, and they're seeing like diametrically opposed tragedies there. In one part of the country or the continent, there's flooding and displacing millions of people. And then on the other, is the droughts that are killing crops and making things miserable for them too. And what does the West do? We exploit their resources. Oh, I'm sorry. We bring democracy. That's right. I forgot that bring democracy thing, right? Isn't that what we're doing? Speaking of India, Air India getting some bomb threats lately. So Singapore scrambles fighters as bomb threat targets Air India jet. Singapore scrambled fighter planes as an approaching Air India Express passenger plane received a bomb threat. The city-state's Air Force dispatched 2 F-15SG military aircraft to escort Air India flight AXB 684 away from populated areas. Minister of Defense Eng Hen, I know I butchered that name too, said in a Facebook post late on Tuesday the Indian airline had received an email claiming a bomb was on board its plane. The Air India aircraft landed safely at Changi Airport at 10:04 p.m. local time. Singapore's ground-based air defense systems and explosives disposal team were activated during the incident. Once it had safely landed, the plane was handed to the airport police, who reported that security checks revealed no threatening items on board. Indian Airlines has faced a number of threats in recent days via email or social media, all of which have found to be hoaxes, Air India said in a statement. Earlier on Tuesday, the Indian flag carrier was forced to divert a flight headed to Chicago to land in Canada. The previous day, a flight from Mumbai to New York was diverted to Delhi due to a bomb hoax. So, terrorism in its own right. Terrorism without the actual physical terror. But, you know, people are so keyed up. It doesn't take much to scare people. And that's the point, right? You keep people in a constant state of fear. You're able to control them. You tell them it's going to be all right. And we're going to make it all right for you. Just listen to us, you know? And cybercrime is part of that too. You know, all you crypto bros out there who think you're safe, you know, you might not be, especially like if the sun keeps, busting out these coronal mass ejections, and one big one hits, and all your shit's going to get wiped out. But cybercrime is a big deal. Cybercrime to reach $10 trillion. Global experts address AI and cybersecurity challenges. The annual cost of cybercrime is expected to reach reach $10 trillion next year. To put that figure into context, in terms of gross domestic product, it would be the third biggest economy in the world after the U.S. and China. That's why countries from Australia to China, the UK, and U.S. are racing to tighten up their cybersecurity laws, and why the UN is expected to pass a landmark cyber treaty in the next few weeks. From deep fakes and disinformation to hacks and attacks on infrastructure, healthcare, and security networks, cybercrime is becoming the number one challenge for law enforcement and intelligence agencies, and artificial intelligence is already changing the rules of the game. Our increasingly connected digital world makes us all more vulnerable to criminal gangs and state-sponsored hackers who can access our data and devices. Imagine handing over control of your bank account, your electric vehicle, even your pacemaker. So how is the international community responding? We're dropping prices. No, to gain insights into the scale nature of the problem, Al Arabiya News Riz Khan met leading experts at the Global Cybersecurity Forum in the Saudi capital of Riyadh. Chris Inglis was appointed by President Joe Biden to lead cyber operations in the U.S. and has become known as America's first cyber czar. That was my title when I was in that rock band in the 80s. I would say that cyber defense can never be perfect. It's never possible. It's not possible to have a perfectly secure architecture, something that's impervious to all threats, for all time, that literally defends itself. So at best, we can make it defensible, he said. Interpol is the world's largest police force, formed in the aftermath of the First World War. It was established to combat an increasing threat from international crime. Collaboration between countries allowed crime fighting to extend beyond national borders. Today, the organization has almost 200 member countries, and when it comes to fighting cybercrime, that original principle of collaboration is more important than ever. As Interpol's director of cybercrime, Dr. Neil Jetton, leads the agency's battle against the hackers. They said, I mean, you can almost just get rid of the word cyber and just call it crime, because there's not a lot of crime that's really not connected now to a computer, to a phone, or some other network system, he told Al Arabiya News. Jetton considers the development of AI to be a double-edged sword, benefiting both criminals and law enforcement alike. With AI, I think quantum computing and encryption is going to become problematic in the future. I think those are things that I'm sure criminals are already salivating at the thought of. I think that there are, though, law enforcement and other government agencies that are also looking at that and saying, we're going to be ready for this. So, yeah. And you wonder why, you know, like in the United States, they have like almost $1 trillion budget for the military. You don't need you only need a fraction of that if your main enemy is cybercrime, and that could come from anywhere on the planet. So that's when you know a bloated military budget is bullshit and somebody's getting their wallets padded. So finally, in the news block, there are consequences to hurricanes, particularly in the Florida area, right? For the residents, that means higher property taxes, higher insurance, constantly dealing with threats of flooding and wind damage. But a thing that these hurricanes, when they affect Florida and affects the rest of the country, and it comes to OJ, and I'm not talking about the dead murderer. I'm talking about orange juice, folks. So orange juice prices near record highs amid fears of worst Florida harvest in a century. So frozen concentrated orange juice futures on the Intercontinental Exchange in New York are nearing new record highs. The squeeze in the physical markets may drastically worsen after a new citrus grove survey damage report across Florida following Hurricane Milton shows widespread damage. And there was several years ago, I mean, I can't remember how long ago it was, when during the winter, Florida had frost damage to a lot of their oranges. Maybe some of you oldsters may remember that. And it was very unheard of because even during the winter months, Florida has mild temperatures. That's why a lot of these citrus grows so well down there. Industry consultant Judy Gaines told Bloomberg that more than 3 million boxes of oranges may have been lost after Milton knocked fruit from branches and devastated citrus groves in the Sunshine State. She warned the next Florida harvest could be the worst since the late 1920s. In recent years, hurricanes Ian and Nicole, freezing conditions, like I told you, and citrus greening disease have decimated citrus groves in the state. Milton has only exacerbated those problems. Some of the latest industry figures show that U.S. orange production is set to reach its lowest level in more than a century. Orange juice futures have surged to $5 a pound, a staggering 433% jump from the COVID lows of around $1 a pound. Worsening supply woes could push prices even higher. And yes, I know there's California oranges too, but you have California, but you also have Florida, and when you take Florida out of the equation, that's going to make those prices go even higher. So you say CNN and MSNBC have a double standard when it comes to Gaza and Ukraine? What you talking about, Willis?
The sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is from Common Dreams. Study exposes double standard for CNN and MSNBC coverage of Gaza versus Ukraine. As the death toll from the U.S.-backed Israeli assault on the Gaza Strip continued to climb on Monday, The Nation published a study revealing the, quote, glaring double standard for American corporate media coverage of that war and Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The analysis was conducted by Adam Johnson, who co-hosts the podcast Citations Needed and writes media criticism at The Column, and Othman Ali, a researcher and data analyst with an advanced degree from the University of Oxford. Ooh, fancy pants. The pair, who released their full data set on GitHub, focused on the first 100 days of each conflict. Russia invaded Ukraine on February 24, 2022, and Israel launched its war on Gaza in retaliation for the Hamas-led October 7th attack. Since the Russian invasion, media critics have highlighted the, quote, racist and dehumanizing double standards of war reporting. Over the past year, such criticism has mounted with arguments that Western media are enabling genocide in Gaza. And despite what AOC says, calling out there's a genocide going on in Israel, I didn't include that story, but apparently she called out the administration. I don't know what kind of game she's playing, but too little too late, and who the fuck gives a shit what that bitch says anyway these days. In March, protesters frustrated with the U.S. newspaper of record even gathered in Manhattan and chanted, "New York Times, you can't hide, we charge you with genocide." Watchdogs like Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting and Media Matters for America have published various critiques, with the latter often focusing on right-wing sources. Quote, CNN and MSNBC's pointed lack of sympathy with Palestinians is also important to examine because the media's consistent dehumanization and erasure of their suffering has helped 12 months of a killing campaign. Johnson and Ali focused on commentary, editorial priorities, and reporting by CNN and MSNBC, explaining that the third major cable network, Fox News, was not included in our analysis because the focus of our study is in the formation of liberal and Democratic Party aligned support for Israel's war on Gaza. And plus, everybody knows that Fox News sucks Israel's dick harder than anybody else. The Democrats are just trying to compete. They found that on the two networks, Palestinians in Gaza received far less sympathetic and humanizing coverage than either Israelis during the same period or Ukrainians during the first 100 days after Russia's invasion. The point of this analysis is not that U.S. media should reduce its coverage of the tragedies in Ukraine to achieve parity with Gaza, but that it should elevate its coverage of the suffering in Gaza to be comparable to that of Ukraine, with the same urgent and moralizing tone, the pair stressed. And yes, Ukraine is full of Nazis, but there are innocent people there too. And you could say, well, I'm on Russia's side or I'm on Ukraine's side. You shouldn't be on the other side because war is just hell. War is just hell. You should be on the side of innocent people. Just my opinion, though. CNN and MSNBC's pointed lack of sympathy with Palestinians is also important to examine because the media's consistent dehumanization and erasure of their suffering has helped 12 months of a killing campaign backed by unending American military and political support that is unprecedented in the 21st century, they added. They highlighted four key findings. Sympathetic victims like journalists, refugees, and children are mentioned more in Ukraine than in Gaza, despite a significantly wider gap in casualties and human suffering. On CNN and MSNBC, emotive words such as brutal, massacre, slaughter, barbaric, and savage were overwhelmingly used to describe the killing of Israelis and Ukrainians and almost never used to describe the killing of Palestinians. CNN and MSNBC covered the impact of Russia's invasion on civilians twice as often as they did the impact of Israel's bombing and siege of Gaza on civilians, despite the latter having a death toll 5 times that of the former. And on CNN and MSNBC, the words war crime or genocide were mentioned over 17 times more in the context of Ukraine than they were in the context of Gaza. They found that for each child death in Ukraine during the first 100 days, there was the equivalent of 16.1 mentions on air, while kids in Gaza received the equivalent of 0.36 mentions. For journalist deaths, it was 24 versus 2.5. The study also shows that the networks covered Ukrainian civilian suffering almost twice as often as they covered that in Gaza. I'd say it's probably higher than that, despite the latter having a death toll that was 500% greater. In just the first 30 days of the Russian invasion, cable news anchors, guests, and reporters used emotive terms for Russians killing Ukrainians 661 times. In the first month of Israel's assault on Gaza, they used such language to describe the killing of Israelis 1,053 times and Palestinians 43 times. So 1,053 times compared to 43, even though the death toll is much higher. Additionally, people appearing on air for both networks described Ukrainians as being subjected to genocide or war crimes 1,790 times compared to just 104 times for Palestinian victims. And I'll have the link for this article in the show description after we're done here today. I try to be very vigilant with that. So you can, some of these stories I read in full and some of them I read partially, so that you get the full story by reading it yourself. So with all that being said, you made the wrong choice in the poll. How do you fix that, Fred? It's too late, buddy. You got to pay attention, man. You got to pay attention. Well, it's good to see you anyway. So I'm just glad you're here, bud. So that being said, with all this propaganda going on at probably the highest levels that I can remember in the media, it's no wonder that trust in U.S. news media hits a record low, according to a Gallup poll. Less than a third of Americans trust U.S. news media, a record low figure according to a new Gallup poll published Monday. This year's poll showed a 1 percentage point drop of Americans who believe the media reports the news fully and accurately from last year. The trend has been on a downward trajectory since 2018. For the third consecutive year, the number of Americans who claim to completely distrust the media remains higher than those who trust it. The new poll, however, demonstrated a slight drop, with 36% of respondents expressing complete distrust versus 39% in 2023. That probably has something to do with Trump derangement syndrome. Meanwhile, those having not very much confidence in the media grew to reach 33% this year. A large gap remains between Republicans and Democrats, with only 12% of Republicans expressing trust in media reporting against 54% by Democrats. However, the partisan gap has actually been narrowing in the last couple of years. According to data aggregated by Gallup in 2022, for instance, some 70% of Democrats express confidence in the media because they're idiots. The pollsters sampled 1,007 adult Americans living across the country. The survey was conducted over the first 2 weeks of September via phone interviews. Respondents were picked randomly for the survey. Gallup first asked Americans the question back in 1972 and has conducted the media trust poll on an almost yearly basis since 1997. While in the 1970s, the trust rate hovered around the 70% mark, it had deteriorated to around 55% by the late 1990s and has continued to drop over the past 2 decades. Yeah. You trust the media? No, sir. No, sir, I don't. When you look on your social media, and of course social media doing the owners, they're doing their damnedest to try and hide these things and ban you from doing it. You're too damn broke to pay attention. No shit, right? So some of these major publications are afraid to show these horrific photos that are happening, that are being taken, like video and pictures. And New York Times is one of those assholes. So the New York Times says photos of children killed by Israel in Gaza too horrific for publication. Are they? Are they really, New York Times? The editor of the New York Times opinion section issued a forceful statement yesterday refuting claims that it published fabricated or altered CT scan images as part of a recent essay featuring appalling first-hand accounts from U.S.-based healthcare professionals who have worked in Gaza over the past year. Baseless attacks on the essay, which quoted dozens of healthcare workers, were spread widely by pro-Israel social media accounts following its publication on October 9th. But Times opinion editor Kathleen Kingsbury said Tuesday that any implication that the essay's images are fabricated is simply false. The newspaper's editors, Kingsbury said, have in their possession photographs to corroborate the CT scan images, but because of their graphic nature, we decided these photos of children with gunshot wounds to the head or neck or burning alive were too horrific for publication. I'm going to stop right there for a second. It's like, they're saying that it was too horrific for publication, but they also know how damning these photos are. And they're not stupid. They may act stupid, but they're not stupid. They know that if these pictures go out on in the mainstream media, you're going to see a lot of people who have been just propagandized to the hilt finally say, what the fuck is this? What am I supporting? We made a similar decision for the additional 40-plus photographs and videos supplied by the doctors and nurses surveyed that depicted young children with similar gunshot wounds. The essay, bylined by trauma surgeon Feroz Sidwa, includes 3 photos of x-rays that Femicides, an emergency medicine doctor based in Olympia, Washington, provided to the Times. I had multiple pediatric patients, mostly under the age of 12, who were shot in the head or the left side of the chest, Syed, who worked in Khan Yunis from August 8th to September 5th, told the newspaper. Usually these were single shots. The patients came in either dead or critical and died shortly after arriving. Lazy quackhole. Hello, good to see you. TV News used to show all these babies wearing Death to America t-shirts. What happened? I don't know. I don't know what that means. Yona Lieberman, co-founder of the American Jewish group If Not Now, wrote in response to Kingsbury's statement, "Shame on any person or organization attempting to paint the dozens of health workers who witnessed the effects of Israel's indiscriminate attacks in Gaza as liars. It's disgusting," Lieberman added. Is there no bottom? Sidwa, who organized a letter sent to U.S. President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris earlier this month, coordinated with the Times opinion editors on a poll of 65 healthcare professionals who have worked in Gaza since Israel began its assault in the wake of the Hamas-led attack on October 7th. More than 40 of the healthcare workers surveyed said they saw multiple cases of preteen children who had been shot in the head or chest in Gaza. Our team cared for about 4 or 5 children, ages 5 to 8 years old, that were all shot with single shots to the head, said Irfan Galaria, a reconstructive surgeon based in Chantilly, Virginia. They all presented to the emergency room at the same time. They all died. Additionally, 63 of the healthcare workers said they observed severe malnutrition in patients, Palestinian medical workers, and the general population, and 52 observed nearly universal psychiatric distress in young children and saw some who were suicidal or said they wished they had died. Together, Israel and the United States are turning Gaza into a howling wilderness, Sidra wrote in last week's essay, but it's never too late to change course. We could stop Israel's use of our weapons, ammunition, jet fuel, intelligence, and logistical support by withholding them. And we could stanch the flow of weapons to all sides by announcing an international arms embargo on Israel and all Palestinian and Lebanese armed groups. The horror must end. The United States must stop arming Israel, and afterward, we Americans need to take a long, hard look at ourselves. So yeah, that's why they don't show images about these children, because it would be horrific. And your normie friends, as we like to call them, the ones that aren't in this space who pay attention to this kind of stuff, will listen to these news agencies, and you would think that everybody in Gaza and the West Bank and Lebanon are all just like, death to America, holding up weapons and, shooting at everything that moves. And, obviously that is not the case. So the Telegraph's potential buyer Dovid, it's not David, it's Dovid, Ifun ran fake journalist story smearing Palestinian activists. Media mogul Dovid Ifun, who is in exclusive talks to buy the Daily Telegraph and its Sunday title, published a story in 2020 attacking an academic and a pro-Palestine activist by a journalist with a false identity whose profile picture has been accused of being a deepfake. British-born Ifun, who lives in New York and has a record of making controversial comments about Israel and Muslims, has begun exclusive talks to buy the prestigious British newspapers, according to reports on Monday. He is the publisher of the New York Sun and is chairman of the American Jewish community paper, the Algemeiner, having formerly been its editor-in-chief. It has emerged that while he was its editor-in-chief, the Algemeiner published an article by a writer claiming to be a student at Birmingham University in England called Oliver Taylor. Taylor had bylines in multiple newspapers, including the Jerusalem Post and the Times of Israel. But in July 2020, Reuters reported that Oliver Taylor was a fake identity. He had no substantial online footprint, and Birmingham University had no record of him having studied there. Several experts in deceptive imagery said Taylor's profile photo was a deepfake, a hyper-realistic forgery. Ifun's paper, the Algemeiner, had published an article by Taylor in 2020 accusing prominent London-based academic Mazen Masri and his wife of being known terrorist sympathizers. In 2018, representing hacked journalists and activists, Masri had helped launch a lawsuit against surveillance company NSO, the Israel-based developer of spyware technology Pegasus. His wife is Palestinian campaigner Rivka Bernard, a senior campaigner at rights group War on Want. Both Masri and Bernard, who have previously written for Middle East Eye, strongly denied Taylor's accusation that they were terrorist sympathizers, for which he provided no evidence. It was Masri himself who first suspected Taylor was not who he claimed and alerted Reuters. The Algemeiner said Taylor had pitched his story over email, had not asked for payment. How do you pay a fake person, right? Maybe Monopoly money? According to Reuters, the paper deleted his work after Reuters began asking questions about him. In response to the incident, Ifun told Reuters that the paper had since introduced new safeguards against such incidents. Fuckery. Always afoot. And Sky News, Anonymous, this your neck of the woods there again. Although this might be, I think Sky News might be Australian, so maybe I could be. I think they're Australian. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to link you with those people. Outrage after Sky News describes Israeli soldiers as teenage victims. They're just teenagers. They're just victims. I'm a victim of circumstance. Sky News has provided outrage online after publishing a headline on Monday saying Israel names teenage soldiers killed in Hezbollah attack as 23 die in Gaza school strike. Die. How'd they die? The headline refers to the soldiers as teenagers and says they were killed by Hezbollah. By contrast, it puts Palestinian deaths in quotation marks and does not clarify that the school strike was carried out by the Israeli military. Israel names teenage. There you see the thing right there. The headline was still up at 3 p.m. British time while the story appeared on Sky News' Twitter account with a description of the soldiers as teenage victims, not referencing that they were soldiers. But the headline has since been changed to Israel names soldiers killed in Hezbollah drone attack as 23 killed in Gaza school strike. Following outrage online. Hezbollah has claimed responsibility for the drone attack on a military base in northern Israel, which killed at least 4 soldiers and wounded scores of others. The group said it fired a swarm of drones on a base in Binyamina, Israel. Butchered that one too. Belonging to the Israel's Army's Golani Brigade. On Sunday evening, a Sky News segment over 3 minutes long was widely criticized for not mentioning that the attack was on a military base. A post on Monday by the tweeters, by the Telegraph, also called the soldiers teenage soldiers and named them. Criticism of media coverage of the Hezbollah attack spread like wildfire online Sunday evening and throughout Monday. So always got to keep an eye on these people. And when they say Like 50 people died in Palestine. Well, how'd they die? How'd they die? What was the cause of death? Oh, genocide? Is that what it was? Maybe. I don't know. Canada lists pro-Palestinian group Samadoun as terrorist entity, of course, because it's Canada. Now, this isn't a shit on all Canadians. I know some Canadian people, very nice folks with common sense who are just, very against what's going on over there. But we're talking about, when we say Canadians, we're talking about the government and their cronies. Canada, in coordination with the United States, yesterday designated the pro-Palestinian group Samadoun as a terrorist entity, alleging that it had links with another terrorist-designated group, the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine. The listing of Samadoun as a terrorist entity under the criminal code sends a strong message that Canada will not tolerate this type of activity and will do everything in its power to counter the ongoing threat to Canada's national security and all people in Canada. You might want to look at yourselves then, assholes. Public Safety Minister Dominique Leblanc said in a statement. Yeah, so Canada, blame Canada. And that's the thing. They want to call everybody a terrorist, and it's like, I can't remember who said this, and I apologize for not knowing the source of this, but they said, like, you constantly come into my house, you constantly kill my people, you take all my stuff, then you take my house, and then you call me a terrorist. Yeah, so that's where we're at as far as like, trying to point out what this propaganda is doing, and it's doing to people, what these governments and these, their cronies are telling people. So they've been claiming Iran wants to kill Trump, right? And Iran said, why would we don't care, you're all assholes, basically. I'm paraphrasing. So U.S. warns Iran to stop plotting against Trump. You better stop it, you little plotters, you. I love it when Iran plots against me. Everybody I know, only the best plotters plot against me. The United States has warned the Iranian government to stop all plotting against Republican Donald Trump and said that Washington would view any attempt on his life as an act of war. How about that? Like they give a shit about Trump. But any chance to say, hey, you started it, not us, the U.S. will take. Some U.S. jackass said on Monday, the official speaking on condition of anonymity, because he's a fucking coward, said U.S. President Joe Biden has been briefed regularly on the threats and directed his team to address Iranian plots against Americans, right? At Biden's direction, top U.S. officials have sent messages to the highest levels of the Iranian government, warning Tehran to cease all plotting against Trump and former U.S. officials. I think John Bolton is one of those as well. The official said, the Iranians have been told that Washington would view it as an act of war if any attempt was carried out against Trump's life. Iran has denied interfering in U.S. affairs. Tehran, in turn, says Washington has interfered in its affairs for decades, citing events ranging from a 1953 coup against a prime minister. That's where the Shah of Iran came from, by the way. And then the 1979 revolution, where now you have a theocratic government instead of a democracy. Thanks, United States. To the 2020 killing of its military commander in a U.S. drone strike. Trump, in January that year, Trump ordered a U.S. airstrike that killed Iran's then top military commander, Qasem Soleimani, after receiving intelligence that Soleimani was planning imminent attacks on the U.S. diplomats and armed forces in Iraq, Lebanon, Syria, and elsewhere in the Middle East. Trump is now seeking a return to the White House where he can drain the swamp. He'll probably just fill it up some more. His campaign said on the 24th of September that Trump was briefed by U.S. intelligence officials on the alleged threat from Iran. Alleged being like, should be in bold and in quotation marks. The White House said that the United States has been closely tracking Iranian threats against Trump for years, and it warned of severe consequences if Tehran was to attack any U.S. citizen. I smell a false flag. Is Vegas taking bets on this election? God, I hope it's pretty close. I mean, you could probably make some money off of it. I mean, if anything, if you don't give a shit about voting, kind of like I do, I mean, like, what's the point? At least try and make some cash off of it, So maybe they think Iran's trying to, maybe they think Iran's betting on this election, so they're trying to take out Trump, and they don't have anybody else that can do it. But let's go to the other side of the aisle, folks, because, Joe Biden has all the original thoughts whenever he has a thought in his head. Oh, wait, no, he's been accused of plagiarism a pretty good bit in his career. Well, everybody says that Kamala Harris is going to be just like Joe Biden. Well, they weren't shitting you. Kamala Harris accused of plagiarism. Uh-oh. Well, there's a shock. It's not like she has an original thought in her head. Look at that. She's dreaming of booze right now. It's this light behind her. It's like, come to the light. There's a bar here. Kamala Harris has been accused of multiple instances of plagiarism for a 2009 book on policing she co-authored while serving as the district attorney of San Francisco. According to an investigation conducted by a self-described plagiarism hunter, that used to be my former job, Austrian Stefan Weber, Harris lifted at least 24 fragments from other authors in the Smart on Crime book, which she wrote with Joan O.C. Hamilton. What the fuck kind of name is that? 3 other fragments were self-plagiarism from a work written with a co-author, according to the expert. What do these findings say about Kamala Harris? Is she in part fake? Did her ghostwriter plagiarize? Was it just the team behind her? I have no idea. I'll let other people from the U.S. draw the right conclusions, Weber wrote on his website detailing all the instances of alleged plagiarism in Harris's book. The allegations against Harris were also reported by conservative activist Chris Rufo. In a post on his website on Monday, he pointed to several passages from the vice president's book, which appeared to be lifted word for word from other sources. In several instances, Harris seemed to have lifted entire sections from Wikipedia, while other passages featured near verbatim reproductions of an NBC News report, a John Jay College of Criminal Justice press release, and a report from the Bureau of Justice Assistance, among others. There's certainly a breach of standards here. Harris and her co-author duplicated long passages nearly verbatim without proper citation and without quotation marks, which is the textbook definition of plagiarism, Rufo said. The activists know that while Harris may have relied on a ghostwriter to draft her book, she is ultimately responsible for the plagiarism contained within, as it has her name on the cover. Rufo called on Harris, as well as the publisher of the book, to retract the stolen passages and issue a correction. There should be a single standard, and Kamala Harris is falling short, Rufo concluded. While Harris has not personally commented on the allegations, she's probably still drunk, her campaign has dismissed the claims, insisting that the candidate clearly cited sources and statistics and footnotes and endnotes throughout the book. And just a little side note there to that, there was recently there was she was making a speech at a rally or something, and her teleprompter went out. And you could tell because she was just like, she froze up like an ice cream bar. So yeah, I mean, yeah, Biden did the same thing. He lifted several speeches throughout his career, and that's the very definition of fake, right? If you're using other people's words, you're not using your own words, you're a fucking fake. So anyway, that's our propaganda watch for today. I told you it was a big block. So finally, this was a bizarre story, and a tale of survival and sorrow. I know we like to leave things on a high note, but this is really an interesting story. So a Russian man was found alive after spending 67 days, that's over 2 months, adrift in the Sea of Okhotsk. He was adrift in a sea. So there's the C, in case you need that. It says file photo of C. A man has been found alive after spending 67 days adrift in the Sea of Okhotsk. I'm going to say the Sea of OK, with Russia's far east, in a maritime incident that claimed 2 lives. The Far Eastern Transport Prosecutor's Office said in a statement yesterday that a small catamaran-type boat was discovered Monday near the village of Usk, that word, in the Kamchatka territory in eastern Russia more than 2 months after it went missing. On August 9th, the boat left Cape Perovsky in Khabarovsk territory, bound for the Sakhalin region. It was carrying 3 people, 2 men and a 15-year-old boy. After a while, communication with them was lost and their location remained unknown, the prosecutor's office stated. There were reports of a possible engine problem that may cause the incident. However, no official confirmed or denied it. Local media identified the survivor as Mikhail Pichugin, 46, who was found severely emaciated. His brother Sergei, 49, and Sergei's son Ilya, 15, did not survive the ordeal. The survivors had warm clothes, life jackets, flares, and a small supply of food and water. Local media reported the prosecutor's office has opened a criminal investigation under the Russian Criminal Code for violation of water transport safety regulations. Pichugin is currently receiving medical care. Officials have not yet revealed how he managed to survive for more than 2 months at sea. That's the thing. It's like, how did he survive? No food? Do you like that, Teresa, the girl from Ipanema movie? Lazy Crackle, what'd you say? You said, did you see that news story about the lawsuit for a kid getting punished by his high school into missing his college application? What he was getting, his high school punished him for missing his college. I don't know what's going on in these schools these days, y'all. I ain't got no kids, at least none that I know of, that are in school, so I have no clue what these people are doing. And so they were pro kid on the news. I know, right? They're all about this. You saw it. You said you saw that on ABC News. That's part of like establishment media. They're always protecting the establishment. So some weird shit's going on in the media too, right? I mean, you've got like people like Saturday Night Live who just cannot get enough, DNC dick in their mouth. And now they're going after Kamala and Joe Biden. I think they think, I mean, when those shows like that go after you, and you're supposedly on their side, something is fucked up. So apparently it's a tight race. I mean, we don't cover the politics that much on here. We try to give you like actual real stories that matter. Politics just seems to be kayfabe and theater, but it's supposedly a tight race and she's not doing very well. And I think the writing is on the wall. Like I said, when your prompter goes out and you're sitting there just going, you're fucked. If you can't even speak, I mean, yeah, granted, Joe Biden was, he's probably a few pieces of bread short of a full loaf by this time, but at least he would say something. Right? It would usually be just like some sort of gibberish, but he has like an actual mental deficiency at this point in his life, whereas that bitch is just stupid. I'm sorry for the disrespect, but not sorry at the same time. Also, I'm not sorry to tell you about tonight on ExtraBulla Live. Yes, I am the king of Segway. Our buddy Noli T is going to be here with us. We're talking about this music project she's got going on. Not her creating music, but delivering music. And also about police accountability. She's a big advocate for that as well. That's going to be tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. It's Noli D. We love some Noli D around here. So Also tonight, this afternoon at 5 p.m. Eastern, it's going to be Bragland with Willie Bragg and Jimmy Sunderland. Fingers crossed, Willie, for tonight. Hopefully, there's been some. Willie's had a time with the tech, and he works nights too. He's trying to do these shows, and he's also got to make a living too. And a lot of times I've worked those overnights before too, and I don't think you ever get used to the timing of that too. Ooh, it's 11:11 here in the Central Time Zone. Make a wish if you're here. And of course, Around the World with D and Friends, 9 p.m. Eastern on YouTube. So Bragland has its own channel too, by the way. So if you find Bragland, Braggland, find them and give them a like and a subscribe. Share it to your friends. If you don't have any friends, become a better person and get some friends. Let's see. Anything else? I think we're good here. Let's look at our poll real quick. So at the beginning of the show, I put up this poll because I want to accommodate people better with the times and dates and stuff for this show. And right now, people are leaning towards Monday, Wednesday, Friday. This is 15 votes. Thanks for voting, by the way. Although, Fred, you fucked it up. You probably skewed the thing, but you'll be all right. Remember the 5th of November. That's coming up too. Isn't it really? I think that's when the election is. Isn't it the 5th of November? So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, 2 hours-ish is the clear winner right now, 53%. Some of you, 27% said you want it Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern for an hour. And then 13% for Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern for 2 hours. That's what we're doing now. And Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern for an hour. 7%. So it looks like we're leaning towards doing Monday, Wednesday, Friday. 11 a.m. Eastern is probably a little bit better. For me, and probably for some of you too. I know there's other shows going on, and we're not here to compete with other shows. We're just here to bring you something different that these other shows aren't doing. So we're trying to bring some variety to the space and hopefully bring you some education, as well as some snarky remarks from yours truly. And you get to see a pasty white boy. When do you get to see that? Very often. Like I said, 7 o'clock Eastern tonight, I will be with Noli D on ExtraBulla Live. Come on out and see us. It should be a fun time. If you're new to the channel, you have to give us a like, subscribe, share it out, that sort of thing. If you can donate too, we got donation links down below. You can become a Patreon member for like $1 a month. If my memory serves me correct, that's like $12 a year. If you don't, that's fine. No, nobody has any cash these days. It doesn't matter. If you could share out the links, it'd be much appreciated too. So anyway, I am out the door in this chilly Chicago air today. I'm going to be, I kind of like when I go on little walks every day for exercise, get the core heat going, which is good for you. It's kind of nice when it's a little bit of a chilly side. So it's a little bit extra chilly for a fall, but that's okay. CJ, you said you tried to do a morning show Monday through Friday once. It was too much for you. Yeah, I mean, I put that option out there, but I'm really not I don't think Monday through Friday would be the right thing for me. It probably would not be good, for sure. I'd be on some of the, by the time Friday rolled around, I'd be like, I say, what? Piggly Wiggly, what? Anyway. I'm rambling. I got to get out of here. Peace. We'll see you this afternoon. Watch the shows. And this show will be back on Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Mountain Time, 7 a.m. Pacific Time, specifically. Peace.
This is City Alpha 5! Woo!
a damn good song, wasn't it, dog? You like that song? All right.